On this week's FAS TV, we're on the banks of Loch Lomond at Portnellan Farm. Portnellan is a traditional organic family farm nestled on the secluded southeastern shore of Loch Lomond, in the Loch Lomond and the Trossachs National Park. The Scott Park family have strong farming values, producing high-quality organic beef in an environmentally sensitive way. Since giving up dairy farming in 2010, the farm has diversified in several ways, capitalising on their stunning location by offering moorings for rent in Portnellan Bay, winter boat storage, farm tours, their newly renovated 4-star self-catering accommodation, kayak and stand-up paddleboard hire, and offering luxury speedboat tours on Loch Lomond.
My name's Chris Scott Park and I farm at Portnellan, which is a family farm. I've been working here full-time for the last 12 years, I think. My background is that I went to university and studied environmental science and outdoor education, and then I came back to work on the farm after that. I guess the first thing that we did was moorings. So we've had moorings here for almost 20 years now. In fact, they've been there for longer, but we kind of redid them, revamped it about probably 15, 16 years ago, and started doing it a bit more large scale or whatever. So that's been on the go for a wee while, and that was kind of our first bit of farm diversification, and that was really Dad's idea. He knew there was a demand for it. We'd had moorings here in the past, so it was a case of just making the most of the location and spotting that demand. And then I guess the second thing that we did was we renovated one of the old the old dairyman's cottage on the farm, home to various dairymen over the years, but when we stopped dairying, it sat empty for probably 3-4 years, I think, and it was in a pretty sorry state of repair. So we decided we would renovate that, and that's now a holiday cottage, and that's been a big boost to the farm. When I came back to the farm, the income from farming alone wasn't enough to support 2 generations, so I came back and I started running the boat tours from the farm. I'd done a bit of that previously, so I had a license. We had the location again. It was just putting the two together. It started very small scale, but it's grown over the last 10 years or so. I also do kayak and paddleboard hire as well, and that was quite an easy step just to add that on the side. You do need your qualifications. You got to go and do your RYA tickets before you do that. You've obviously got to have permission of the landowner, but that wasn't too difficult. Yeah. Other than that, you've got to make sure your insurance is it's up to scratch. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So I offer private boat tours. They're fairly bespoke boat tours. Anything from an hour's spin out on the loch, kind of up through the islands, through to kind of longer tours. There's lots to see and do out on Loch Lomond, so you can stop off at various kind of pubs and restaurants. There's a beautiful island called Inchcailloch out on Loch Lomond, which is absolutely stunning. Some beautiful walks on it, lovely viewpoint up at the top. Nice beaches as well, so a great place to go for a kind of picnic or barbecue, which is something that's becoming very popular, taking people out, dropping them off. They have a barbecue and then pick them up later in the day. I don't know whether you can see it, but just in the background there's Inchmurrin Island there, fantastic place. The family that own the island, they actually live there and they farm it as well. But they run a pub and a restaurant there as well, which makes it a popular place to go with the boat. The pricing for the boat works out. I charge per hour, so it's per hour per boat, and that's kind of how it works. So I only run private tours. It means that you're paying for a slightly more exclusive experience. It's just your group on the boat. It's whether that's a couple or whether that's a family of 8 or whatever. It's the same price. From my point of view, that kind of gets around, if you've only got 2 people on the boat, you're not trying to sell more seats to make it worthwhile. Every trip I do will be worthwhile doing, regardless of how many people are on it. The good thing about the boat is that it can cater for quite a wide audience. So anything from couples looking for romantic trip out on the loch, through to families on their summer holidays, and the size of the boat, we can take up to 8 on the boat. It makes it work really well with groups of small groups of friends as well. So 4 couples or whatever. So yeah, smaller groups, but anything from couples through to families to small groups of friends. There's a lot of crossover between the individual bits on the farm. So my dad and I do the majority of the farm work. Dad does a lot with the moorings, so he's the kind of main point of contact for anyone looking for a mooring on the loch. They'll email him and he'll set up a meeting with them. Maintaining the moorings, we'll both do that. We'll both help with that. He's quite keen in his diving, so he does dive on the moorings to inspect them. Mum looks after the holiday cottage. That's kind of her domain. Although Dad does go in and help with cleaning the kitchen as well. And then I kind of run the boat tours and the kayaking, paddleboarding. Most of the time on my own, but it wouldn't be possible to do it on your own the whole time. So, you know, sometimes family get roped in to kind of help with bits and pieces as well. Probably the thing I enjoy most about our activities is meeting people. You know, if it was just farming, farming can be quite lonely. You know, you're in I wouldn't say the middle of nowhere, but you're out in the countryside. You maybe wouldn't see that many people. Doing the various activities that we do, you get to meet some really interesting people from all over the world. So part of what I enjoy doing is taking them out on the loch, and hopefully they learn something from me, but I usually learn something from them as well, which is really quite nice. I don't think you can get a much better place to raise kids. So we've got a small daughter, and she's 18 months now, and she loves being outside. She loves tractors. She loves the cows. So, you know, she's happy when she's out on the farm. She's got so much space to run around in, and she's very lucky because not everyone has that. But I think it'll be a good life for her growing up here. We've got various ideas for what we could do on the farm next. We have discussed more accommodation. I quite like the idea of a sauna on the banks of the loch as well. Wild swimming has become a big thing, and if you could combine that with a sauna experience, I really quite like the idea of that. I've probably got to sell that to the rest of the family. One of our issues is that we're already pretty busy doing what we're doing at the moment, so we need to decide how we're going to move some of our ideas forward. But we've got lots of ideas that we could do.
Okay, I'm David Scott Park. I've been farming here pretty much all of my life. The farm was bought in 1952 by my grandfather, although he never actually farmed it. My father farmed it before me, and now I'm farming it along with my son Chris. Okay, a little bit of history about the farm then. Originally, back in the 1950s, it was very much a mixed farm. Kind of early tractors were coming in, horses were going out, and we can see that in the old cine films that we've got, and maybe my memories perhaps. And then moving on from there, in the 70s, we focused on dairying, so we put up sheds with cubicles and slatted sheds and milking parlours and that sort of thing. And we continued milking right through until 2010 it was, yes. We stopped 2010, 15 years ago now. We went organic, we certified organic in 2001, so that meant we started the process just at the turn of the century. So it's almost 25 years that we've been organic now. When we made the transition from dairy to beef, organic farming was something we're quite familiar with and quite used to, so we just stuck with that and we're still organic. Okay, the breeds of cattle that we work with, originally they were derived from the dairy cows. So we had Ayrshires and British Friesians. We were lucky enough to be able to sell off a lot of them to another organic farm at the time that we stopped. He was looking to expand or go out, and when our cows came in the market, he took the option to expand. And then those cows that we sort of deemed not suitable for selling on, we kept them, put them in calf to a Simmental. And then after that, we've been using mostly an Angus and a Shorthorn bull. It's entirely AI that we use now, or always has been. We haven't had a bull here for years. We were familiar with AI, so we thought we would just stick with that. In terms of acres, we're 230 acres here. Steep, wet, north facing, but you've got a stunning view behind us there, so we're now kind of making the most of that. In terms of cattle numbers, we've got a breeding herd of around about 40 suckler cows, and a total number of stock on the farm is around about, well, when they've calved it'll be up to about 120, 125, something like that. Well, we used to calve in March, but we had too many problems calving inside, so we moved it to April calving. So kind of April, May is when the bulk of them calve now. AI, we're familiar with it. We've used AI all through the dairy years and stuff. Genus did all the insemination for us up until a couple of years ago when they turned up here in February and said, actually, we're not going to cover you any longer. So they offered us a 3-day course in inseminations, a bit of a crash course. Chris and I did it. He was better than I was, so he does the AI now. What are my main farming values? God, I have to think quite hard what they are. I suppose we've been farming organically for so long, it's just the way we farm now. I don't think of it as anything special or different, it's just the way we farm. In terms of the kind of policies that we run, I suppose we use native breeds because we can finish them off grass. So most of them we sell store cattle, but we do sell some finished from grass on Portnellan. So they're entirely grass fed. They get grass silage made on the farm during the summer. They get that over the winter, and then once they get out to grass, they're eating grass. They get absolutely nothing else. Since we stopped dairying, we stopped buying concentrate, so they've had nothing else other than that. The only other thing we give them is trace element boluses, copper, selenium, cobalt and iodine. Well, I suppose, yeah, the way we deal with the grassland management is because we're so steep and awkward, we have a set series of fields that we cut for silage, and we cut them every year because that's our only option. We just don't have anything flat here. All the slurry that's generated over the winter goes onto the silage fields, and then if there's anything a wee bit left over after that, it might go onto a grazing field. But we reckon that we're taking most off the silage fields, so that's where that goes. The only other additional thing we do is we soil sample, and we soil sampled a couple of years ago, and as a result of that, put lime onto everything. Previous to that, I think it'd been 10 years since we actually put lime on, and that was too long a spell. And this time when we sampled, we needed to top it up, but not so much as the previous time. We kind of operate a rotational grazing system after a fashion. It's not a perfect system, but the larger fields, we split them up into paddocks with electric fencing. It's easy enough to make paddocks, but it's a wee bit harder to lay on a water supply to them. But over many years, we've run out miles of water pipe, so now all the paddocks do actually have a water supply, which is hugely advantageous over having to bring cattle in. I suppose we've done a couple of things on the farm to mitigate climate change. The most recent thing was, I think, October last year. I was getting fed up with the house and the garage getting flooded. So we took the digger into the field and we dug a ditch just right along the back of the house. And that has worked well in that we haven't had roads washed out, we haven't had problems with the garage getting flooded. But on the other hand, we haven't had any of those really torrential downpours since then. Other things we've done, many years ago, I dug a pond right up at the top of the farm. It was a kind of wet patch. I took the digger up there to see what would happen if we made a wee pond. And it worked, it held water, it filled up, and we've now enlarged that, enhanced it, and it's created a completely new ecosystem up there. So aquatic plants appeared from nowhere, pond skaters, damselflies, dragonflies, everything just appeared. And then I suppose about 5 years ago it was getting very over-vegetated and it dried out. So we dug it out again, enlarged it slightly, and that is now a source of water for the cattle. If the burns that we otherwise catch water from dry up, we can then siphon it out of that and add it into the water supply system. So those are probably the main things that we've done to kind of help with climate change. I think if I was offering advice, and we do offer advice, we've had a number of big estates come to talk to us about it, and I'm quite happy to talk to them about what we do, but I'm not an expert in other things. I just tell them what we do. And yeah, and there is quite an interest in it. And we just explain to them what we do. It's not a big drama. I used to get really stressed about organic inspections and things and think, crikey, what are they going to pick me up for? Now it's just the way we farm and we don't really think about it. I suppose if we're thinking about what we do on the farm here, one of the main things is we've simplified the system. So we're not buying in anything. We try to be as self-sufficient as we can. So all the feed is produced on the farm, and the cows are a type that will survive on the system that we have. We don't want anything that's too complicated. normally you're asked what are your biggest challenges, and I think the biggest challenge of the whole lot is rushes. But I don't think that's a unique problem for organic farms. We obviously can't use glyphosate on them, and what we try to do is to top them twice in the year. Topping them once is not enough, but if we can cut them twice, that seems to set them back. It's not going to get rid of them, but it does set them back. And the other thing I sometimes get asked about is dockings. How big a problem are dockings? And generally speaking, they're not a big problem. We haven't applied any herbicide for at least 25 years now, probably more, and the dockings haven't really changed. The more slurry you put on, the more dockings you get. The more nitrogen, the more docks you get. But most years we've got these wee iridescent green dock beetles, and they're my best pals. They're fantastic. They eat nothing but dockings and they shred them. And when we're doing a farm tour, I normally can go out in the field and you can look for a dock leaf that's been shredded by these dock beetles. And last year, because it was such a poor summer, I was really struggling to find them. Whereas this year already I'm seeing them in reasonable numbers. So I'm pretty optimistic that they'll get top of the dockings for us. Yeah, so what I think of organic beef in terms of taste compared with conventional beef, I prefer not to be the judge of that. But we have a lot of customers who buy from us, and back in the days when we did farmers markets, we had those that bought from us because we were organic and whatever they perceived went with that. We had those that bought from us because they perceived organic farms had a higher standard of animal welfare. Not something I'd like to argue one way or the other. And then the final group of people who bought from us didn't give a monkeys whether it was organic or not. They simply went on taste. And they were probably my most satisfying customers because they told us that we were doing something right.